Hello and welcome. You're watching the late night edition of news right here on NDTV 24/7. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Now, major developments in the fight against COVID in the country today, with the government announcing that the gap between the two doses of Covishield has now been extended up to 16 weeks. A move backed by Serum Institute of India, which manufactured the vaccine in India. At the same time, there are concerns raised by scientists on the Sputnik vaccine going on sale next week, and on the effectiveness of the existing vaccines on the highly transmissible strain of virus first discovered in India.
जो 2 डोसेज ओरिजिनल हैं वो हमें पहले से ही मालूम है कि वो इफेक्टिव हैं। ये सिंगल डोज के बाद भी एफिकेसी इतनी अच्छी है कि हम उसको पोस्टपोन 3 हफ्ते तक इट्स ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम एट ऑल। और बहुत सारे देशों में मैंने जो कहा आपको, बाकी देशों में वो अपना जो है 4 to 6 या 6 to 8 वीक्स वाला ही शेड्यूल फॉलो कर रहे हैं।
It has increased the interval. It's presently recommended between 6 and 8 weeks. Now, the government says the move is based on real-life evidence of the efficacy of the vaccine. In fact, it's a move backed by the Serum Institute's Adar Poonawala, who's told us this is a very good move because this is based on data that the government received, on the basis of which they made a good scientific decision to increase the gap. Now, the medical journal Lancet seems to back the move. In a report earlier this year, Lancet said, supporting a longer interval immunization strategy, vaccine efficacy was significantly higher at 81.3% after 2 standard doses given at an interval of 12 weeks or longer. Now, the move clearly helps the government ensure that more citizens can get their first jab at a time when vaccines are in short supply, though it's still unclear when more people would actually get vaccinated at the numbers we need them. What the government says today is that between August and December, over 2 billion doses could be made available of 8 types of vaccine, including the Sputnik vaccine, which goes on sale next week. Now, we may have the vaccines, but actually administering them at the rate that needs to be done, that's a different story altogether. But that said, as far as Sputnik is concerned, there are concerns. Lancet has said, notwithstanding the previous issues and lack of transparency, the interim results from phase 3 trials of the Sputnik vaccine again raise serious concerns. Now, these allegations have been countered by Russian scientists who say clear and transparent regulatory standards exist for the provision of clinical trial data. All of this comes on a day in which the World Health Organization has raised perhaps the most important query of all: how well do the existing vaccines work on the variant of COVID called B1617, first discovered in India, now present in more than 40 countries. So the WHO says, and this is very new, preliminary laboratory studies awaiting peer review suggest a limited reduction in neutralization by antibodies. In other words, the vaccines are less effective than they were or are on the original strain for which they were designed in the first place.
स्पुतनिक वैक्सीन देश में आ गया है और आज मुझे ये कहते हुए खुशी है कि अगले हफ्ते हमें उम्मीद है कि स्पुतनिक वैक्सीन विल बी अवेलेबल इन द मार्केट। जो लिमिटेड सप्लाई पहली आई है वहाँ से एक प्रश्न आया है कि कोवैक्सीन की सप्लाई दिल्ली में बंद हो गई है। सो वी रिफ्यूट दिस दैट देयर इज एनी प्रेशर ऑन एनीबडी नॉट टू सप्लाई टू एनी पर्टिकुलर स्टेट। विनती है कि जो कंपनी कोवैक्सीन बनाना चाहती है, पहले भी कह चुके हैं, मिलकर बनाइए, सरकार पूरा योगदान करेगी कि ऐसी कैपेसिटी इंक्रीज हो।
पिछले 24 घंटे में देश में 3,62,727 केस रिपोर्ट हुए हैं। यहाँ पर भी हम एक ट्रेंड पा रहे हैं कि देख रहे हैं कि पिछले 3 दिनों से देश में केसेस में एक प्लेटोइंग महसूस होती है। देश में पिछले 3 दिनों से ओवरऑल केस पॉजिटिविटी में कुछ कमी पाई गई, जो कि 20% से कम अब हमारे देश में ओवरऑल पॉजिटिविटी पिछले 3 दिनों में नोट की गई है।
Let's look at Karnataka now, which in the past 24 hours has seen over 35,000 cases, which is a slight dip. But wait till you run on any judgment over here. The positivity rate over there is still standing at 27.64%. And as we report a slight dip, also a dip in the number of testing in Karnataka, dip also seen in Bengaluru case in the past 24 hours, and dip also seen in the vaccines administered in Karnataka. And starting tomorrow, those in the age group of 18 to 44 will not be able to get vaccinated against COVID-19. And this is what the government there is saying. And also, even those who have already registered, already have a slot, they will not be given any vaccine because they've run out of it. At the moment, the government is saying that doses will be reserved instead for those over 45.
The enthusiasm for the COVID-19 vaccine from those in the age group 18 to 44 has been undeniable. And it took the authorities by surprise.
When the government announced for vaccination for 45 and above, there was so much of rush. So we thought that on the basis of that we can go ahead with the 18 to 45 people also. But as soon as the second wave, it became so much across the country, people started rushing.
And so, despite a May 1st launch by the Chief Minister of the vaccination drive in the state for the 18 to 44 age group, they are now left disappointed.
No, actually vaccination should not be stopped for anyone. 18 to 45 years vaccination should be given because society will be safe as well as home and everything will be safe, I think.
ಕೊರೋನಾಗೆ ಏನು ಏಜ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಇದಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಮಕ್ಳಿಗೂ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, 18 ಪ್ಲಸ್ಗೂ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, 14 ಪ್ಲಸ್ಗೂ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ ಸಿಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
Our intention is to vaccinate everybody above 18 at the earliest. So, see, it is not so easy. 17 crore people have been vaccinated by now within a very short time.
Sir, ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ನಮಗೆ ನಾಳೆ ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ ನೀವು ಇಷ್ಟು ಕೊಟ್ಟೇ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರ್ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ನೆನಪುಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕಾಗುತ್ತಾ?
Vaccines continue to be a challenge in Karnataka. With demand far outstripping the supply, it is still a challenge for people to get their shots, whether second doses for the older group or the first dose for those in the age group 18 to 44. And with vaccination being considered one of the best ways to reduce infections and fatalities, the fact that those who want vaccines in the worst hit state in India can't always get them is a matter of deep concern. With DM Kumar, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
Meanwhile, looking at the national capital, the case in the past 24 hours have been just about over 10,000, which is definitely a dramatic shift down in the number of cases that we've seen. 308 lives lost in the past 24 hours. Positivity rate at the moment, 14.24%. And testing in the past 24 hours still standing at a good about 73,600 or so. Nearly 59,000 tests of RT-PCR amongst these. And also when it comes to vaccination, this is the second day when Delhi has had no co-vaccine doses. And Covishield, at the moment, the Delhi government says will last them for about 8 days or so. Manish Sisodia, though, meanwhile today said that they have a surplus for oxygen, finally after so many days of SOS calls, and they're ready to provide it to other states.
पॉजिटिविटी रेट 14% आ चुका है और मरीजों की संख्या, डेली जो मरीज आ रहे हैं उनकी संख्या भी आज घट के 10,400 के करीब रह गई है. जिम्मेदार सरकार होने के नाते हमने केंद्र सरकार को इन्फॉर्म कर दिया है कि दिल्ली की ऑक्सीजन की नीड अब कैलकुलेट होके 582 मीट्रिक टन पे आ गई है. तो जो ऑक्सीजन की जरूरत अन्य राज्यों को है उनको भी इसमें से बाकी ऑक्सीजन दी जा सकती है.
From that story of hope to a bit of disappointment at this point, where a 5-month-old newborn baby girl named Pari succumbed to COVID last evening and was cremated at the old Simapuri crematorium here in the national capital, bringing to light the complications even kids with COVID now are facing.
छोटी सी 5 महीने की बच्ची जो परी ही थी और नाम भी परी था, इस शमशान घाट में लाई गई है आज संस्कार के लिए. इससे ज़्यादा दुख की बात नहीं हो सकती है.
Prahlad has bid his last goodbye to his baby girl, Pari, just 150 days into this world. Pari was just 5 months old and COVID positive. She spent the last 6 days on the ventilator battling for her life. The family did everything in their capacity to save her, including her uncle who donated his blood.
उसे ब्लड की कमी थी तो ब्लड मैंने खुद अपना ब्लड उसे चढ़वाया था और ए प्लस क्या कहते हैं उसको ब्लड दे करके आया था मैं 100 ml ब्लड चढ़ा था उसका.
Social worker Jitendra Singh Shanti, who has been helping families perform last rites, cremated her. He said he hadn't seen anything like this before.
इस बच्ची ने कल हमारे शमशान घाट में सबको रुला दिया. मुझे लगता है ये बच्चों में वायरस का आना बहुत खतरनाक है और कोई इलाज ना मिल पाना उससे ज़्यादा खतरनाक है. मैंने कल उनको जो शक्ल दिखाई दी वाकई परी थी उनकी.
Pari's father says the virus was so severe it damaged her lungs. The family is inconsolable. Their 3-year-old son keeps asking for a video call with his sister. The virus is truly more dangerous to young India now. Many experts, doctors have said this repeatedly. What could be more painful than the news of a father cremating his 5 months newborn baby girl? With camera person Sushil Rathi in Delhi, Shanakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
Tragic really indeed. And this next report, not any less, where just days after dead bodies of suspected COVID patients were spotted floating in the Ganga River in Bihar and eastern UP, fresh reports have now emerged of multiple bodies found buried in sand at 2 locations by the same river in Uttar Pradesh's Unnao district, which is just, mind you, about 40 kilometers from the capital, Lucknow.
The UP government taking stock 24 hours after these bodies, allegedly of COVID patients, were found buried in the sand by the Ganga River in Unnao, just 40 kilometers from capital Lucknow. Reports from the area suggest a shortage of wood for funeral pyres could be why corpses are being abandoned in this manner. The images just days after dead bodies of suspected COVID patients were spotted floating on the Ganga River in eastern UP and in Bihar.
जो लाशें हैं वो कोरोना की लाशें हैं, कोरोना से खत्म हुए लोगों की लाशें हैं जिनको ट्रेस नहीं किया गया. तो ऐसा कुछ वाकया क्या सामने आया?
नहीं, ऐसा तो कुछ नहीं है और ऐसी कोई जानकारी भी नहीं है.
Unnao currently has a little less than 2,000 active COVID cases. Data released by the state government also suggests that since the beginning of the pandemic, around 170 people have died in the district from the infection. But evidence from the ground across rural UP suggests things are much worse. In Unnao, more headaches for the government. 14 government doctors in charge of rural hospitals in the district resigned from their posts last evening, saying they are being made the scapegoats for the rise in COVID infections in the district.
सामूहिक इस्तीफा देने का वजह क्या है? वजह यही है कि हमें काम करने के बाद भी बार बार हमें ये सिद्ध कराया जा रहा है कि शायद हम लोग काम नहीं कर रहे और हमारे काम ना करने की वजह से कोविड संक्रमण जो है वो नियंत्रण के बाहर है.
A top government official in Unnao has now said that things have been sorted out.
सीएमओ साहब ने वार्ता की है और अन्य हमारे जो एसीएमओज हैं उन्होंने भी वार्ता की है और शीघ्र ही समस्या का समाधान कर लिया जाएगा. वो सब हमारी टीम के लोग हैं और कहीं बाहर के नहीं है. हम लोग वार्ता करके उनके अगर कोई समस्याएं हैं तो उसको हम लोग दूर भी करेंगे.
But is the pandemic going out of hand in UP's rural areas? With Gaurav Sharma in Unnao, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
From UP to Bihar now, where even as the Bihar government has extended the lockdown till the 25th of May, it's claiming all's well as the number of positive cases are actually going down. But the situation's not as rosy as being painted by the Nitish Kumar government, as village after village now reporting an abnormal hike in deaths due to all corona-like symptoms.
पहले शुरू में बुखार आया, बुखार आने के बाद खांसी हुआ, खांसी के बाद गला में कफ छिकने लगा, उसके बाद उनकी मृत्यु हो गई। कोरोना का टेस्ट हुआ था लेकिन हम लोगों ने कागज नहीं लिया, जल्दीबाजी में उनकी मृत्यु हो गई, इसलिए हम लोग वहाँ से निकल गए।
दूसरा खुराक क्या हुआ कि लिए, इसके बाद बुखार आया, इसके बाद हार्ट का मरीज रहे थे और शुगर का। हॉस्पिटल में सरकारी गए, उन्होंने सुई दे दिया, इसके बाद 1-2 दिन जिए, इसके बाद मृत्यु हो गई।
At this Bamhor Khas village in Kaimur district of Bihar, at least 34 people have lost their lives in the last 25 days. Villagers claim most of those who died had corona-like symptoms, but were tested initially for malaria and typhoid.
फर्स्ट में मुझे मलेरिया हुआ, इसके बाद टाइफाइड हो गया था, टाइफाइड से फिर कोविड का शिकायत आ गया था।
अच्छा, फिर कैसे?
फिर यहाँ पे बेहोश हो गया मैं, फिर मोहनिया गया तो वहाँ ऑक्सीजन वगैरह लगा, 36 घंटे रहा था, इसके बाद रिकवर होने के बाद आया वापस।
Villagers say some could not survive the medicine given for typhoid. They claim that due to lack of testing in most of cases, COVID is not established as the reason of death.
इतना कम समय में इतना मौत कभी नहीं हुआ था, पहली बार हुआ ऐसा। हाँ, हम लोग मानते हैं कि कोरोना के कारण ही है।
According to locals, around 70% of the population in this village is sick, but the administration denies this claim.
The state government is yet to acknowledge the severity of the issue and people are left to fend for themselves. In Kaimur with cameraman Habib Ali, this is Manish Kumar for NDTV.
To Chhattisgarh now, where the government has been forced to stop a major construction project. They have now scrapped the new assembly plan after BJP's taunt over Central Vista as well. Now, this meant that tenders worth over 245 crore for the new assembly have now been cancelled. Construction of the new governor's house, the chief minister's residence, also stopped. All government construction in Navaraipur have been stopped with immediate effect, as the Chhattisgarh CM came out to say that our citizens are our priority. Meanwhile, all this is happening when criticism is growing against the central government for going ahead with the Central Vista project as well, and Congress was the one to actually criticize them. And amid heavy criticism and the massive spending on Prime Minister's pet Central Vista beautification project, when the country grapples with the deadly COVID-19 virus, barricades and signs now have come up saying no photographs, no videos, as construction and all the activity over there continues. Welcome back. Now, air ambulances have been playing a big role in transporting critically ill COVID patients to medical hubs like Hyderabad and Chennai. These, along with Bengaluru, have sophisticated ECMO centers and also lung transplant expertise for those who need these ultra-critical care beyond ventilators or those who need a lung transplant as well. NDTV's Uma Sudhir reports on how more than 100 critically ill patients have been flown into Hyderabad so far.
A 39-year-old patient whose lungs were badly damaged due to COVID and has now tested negative, being prepared to be carried in an air ambulance from Ranchi to Hyderabad that has emerged as a major hub to treat critically ill COVID patients. The 39-year-old patient from Ranchi flown into Hyderabad is now going to be taken to a corporate hospital here. At least 100 air ambulances have landed here, bringing patients from different parts of the country.
बहुत चैलेंजिंग रहता है क्योंकि हाई एल्टीट्यूड पे ऑक्सीजन का प्रेशर भी रहता है, ऊपर से पेशेंट का कंडीशन भी क्रिटिकल है, तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें रहती है जो हमको थोड़ा मैनेज करना रहता है। हमारे पास सारे इंस्ट्रूमेंट है, वेंटिलेटर, सब कुछ, इको मशीन, सब पूरी तरीके सारे मेडिसिन भी है, तो हम अच्छे से मैनेज कर लेते हैं।
और आप पिछले कुछ दिनों में काफी प्रेशर रहा होगा ऐसे एयर ट्रैवल से पेशेंट्स को लेकर?
जी, बहुत सारे पेशेंट रहते हैं क्योंकि अभी इस टाइम पे जो पेंडेमिक चल रहा है इसकी वजह से बहुत सारे कॉल्स रहते हैं हमको, दिन रात तो हम यही कर रहे हैं अभी फिलहाल तो।
Those who are COVID positive are transferred in isolation pods like this one that are imported and add to the cost of air transfer. That can be anywhere between 6 lakh to 20 lakh rupees depending on the sector and criticality of the patient.
Most of the tertiary centers in Hyderabad and Chennai are the transplant units which are highly specialized in lung transplant, and they have a very robust critical care and ECMO service available in their tertiary centers.
Given the number of critically ill patients in the second COVID wave, Integrated Air Ambulance Service (ICAT) has in fact created a world record, having transferred as many as 80 patients on ECMO, that is extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, for those who cannot survive even on ventilators and may need a transplant.
90% of our transfers are ECMO patients. We initiate ECMO in the very remote locations where there is no facility, and then we transfer them back to the hospitals where either it is a transplant unit or ECMO unit.
In Hyderabad, with camera person Nagraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
In an update for UPSC students now, the exams have been postponed for the Civil Services Preliminary Exam, which was scheduled to take place on the 27th of June. In view of COVID-19 situation in the country, the exams will now be held on the 10th of October. And this is for UPSC. The Commission made that announcement today. The Commission also conducts civil services examination annually in 3 stages. Remember, preliminary, main and interview to select officers for the IAS and IF and also the IPS.